Hello and welcome to episode number 64 on the Product Biz Podcast. Today, we are talking about the secret to staying grateful through every moment in your business with Lindsay Ashworth. So I want to just level set and say that going through challenging times as a small business owner is inevitable. It's part of the journey, and growing a small business is truly not for the faint of heart because there will be moments when sales are slow, no matter what you're doing tactically or strategically. And what truly matters is how you handle those roadblocks, those challenges, and those hurdles to get to the other side. Today's special guest, Lindsay Ashworth, is sharing the journey of starting her business, burning herself out, pivoting to something that works so much better and so much easier for her, and how gratitude was the one constant factor throughout every single challenge, hurdle, and roadblock. You'll learn from Lindsay how she started her Etsy shop, creating custom party favors using her Cricut machine, to pivoting to selling printable party decor items on Etsy for an entirely passive income business, which she has now over 10,000 orders on Etsy. And you'll learn how gratitude plays a massive role in the results that you see in your business and in your life. A little bit about Lindsay. She is a party decorations designer turned printable seller, as well as a course creator who teaches women how to tap into abundance through printables on Etsy. So without further ado, let's bring her on and let's chat all things Etsy and all things gratitude. Well, hello, Lindsay, and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a fun conversation because you are an Etsy superstar. You sell some amazing printables on Etsy. So I think this is just going to be an awesome convo as we talk about how you started your business, what you sell, what you do, how you use gratitude in your business, which is something that I'm a big fan of too. But before we dive into all the juicy topics we have today, I would love for you to just introduce yourself. Sure. Let us know a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah. So I teach women how to make printables so they can use their creative skills to make passive income. Before this, or my, previous experience with Etsy was I started out selling party decorations on Etsy. So I was hand making it, shipping it to my customers. And very quickly I got pretty burnt out doing that, as I'm sure you talk a lot about to your students, and just trying not to get burnt out, right? Doing what you love. And so that's why I switched to printables, and it's been, no looking back from there. So now I just teach other people how to do it as well, because I just feel like it's hands down the best way to make passive income and use your creative skills.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I'm excited to hear a little bit more of how you really went from the party favors to the printables. So if you're cool to dive into a little bit more about the party favors. So how did you get started with that originally? And just tell me more about what that business was like. What kind of party favors? Were you only selling on Etsy? What was that like?
Yeah. So basically it all started as most, I feel like creatives do when you're planning something like my wedding and my baby shower and stuff like that. And I did all the things for that, all the decor, had so much fun designing stuff for that. And people were always telling me, you should do this, you should sell this stuff on Etsy. And of course, all the fears crept in of like, well, isn't everybody already doing that? And how can I make any money doing that? But then one day I just kind of bit the bullet, and it kind of relates to my gratitude kind of journey. But basically I went through a postpartum depression after I had my daughter, and I was kind of looking for something of my own that was outside of, my work, and then also outside of being a mom. And so that's when I decided to kind of start my business. And I just love creating. I love, designing and stuff like that. And so I just opened my Etsy shop, and it was born from there. So,
yes.
Yeah,
I love that story. And I think that is like such a similar story. That's how I started with plant-based beauty too. It was just like kind of a hobby. And then I started to share about it on Instagram, and people were like, oh, can I buy that too? And it's like, dang, then it kind of blows up out of nowhere. So tell me a little bit more about the type of party favors and how you were making them. So like what type of party favors were you actually selling on Etsy at that point in time?
Yeah. So my main thing was making custom party decorations. So I love the idea of someone coming to me and saying, I can't find this design anywhere on Etsy. There's tons of stuff on there already, but it might not be exactly the color or the fonts or, the theme that you're kind of going for. So that was my whole thing. Was I loved people coming to me, and I could just come up with exactly what they wanted. And so from there I would design it all, and then I would print it out and cut it using my cutting machine. I'm a big Cricut user for anybody who loves their Cricut. But so yeah, I was making those. I was also selling it on my website as well. But it definitely took a toll just doing all of that work, just hurting my back, like leaning over, trying to do it all. But it was so much fun, and I still enjoy doing it occasionally. It's just nice to have that passive income on the side so that I can do both, which is nice.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like custom pieces, right? It's like it's a lot of work. And I
Totally.
know a lot of people who do custom pieces, even if it's like custom artwork or custom this or custom that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
man, that is a lot of work because it's not as simple as having a product, putting it in a box and just shipping it out. Like you're actually
Yeah.
having back and forth conversation. You're
Mhm.
actually doing this one-time project, this one-time output, which I'm assuming you kind of hinted at is why you switched over to printables, right? I know you
Right.
mentioned you were getting pretty burnt out. So talk us through a little bit of that transition of what exactly are you selling now with printables and what was that switch like for you?
Yeah. Well, I kind of started to transition where I would just take the things that I already had and try to make them into printables. So I really started out with strictly party decorations as printables. And so that was a fun experience because I was able to kind of put my own spin on it. I noticed other people on Etsy were selling party decorations, but people didn't know how to put them together. So I did a lot of like videos and tutorial videos to show people how to take my printables and put them into party decorations. So that was really fun. And one of the things that I started doing was I was able to combine both the custom work and the printables. So when someone would contact me and say, hey, I want to do a baby shower, I want to do this and that, what I would do is I would create the party for them and then I would turn it into printables. So, all my work wasn't in vain. I could resell it as printables. So it was just really growing, I guess, my mindset in the sense that I didn't really know how to make printables. And so it was just really me figuring out how to do it. And like, I was kind of scared because I was like, what if someone opens the file and they can't use it? Or what if somebody gets mad at me and stuff like that? So it was just a process of really just learning and growing as I went. And then now I'm just like, oh, thank goodness I did that because I couldn't have continued on the path that I was on.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good lesson, right? A lot of being a small business owner and entrepreneur is finding ways to like pivot. If something's not
Yeah.
working, how can we do this different? How can we make it more efficient? How can we drop it and switch to kind of a different parts of what you're doing, which is exactly what you're saying. You had these awesome party favors, people loved it, but then kind of pivoted to make it work better for you and
Mm-hmm.
also still being able to support the customers that want those type of items.
Right. Yeah,
So tell
exactly.
me a little bit more about printables because I think like we get what they are, right? A
Right.
customer buys a digital file and then they actually print it. But give me an example of like a specific item that you now sell with printables and how it actually works for the customer, how they use it, how they actually bring that to life.
Totally. Yeah, it's actually funny because I always joke that my dad still doesn't really understand what I do because printables is it's such an abstract idea, I guess. But what I tell people is just that it's anything that you can buy from, a seller and then you can print it out your own, or you can use it digitally. So, it could be anything from invitations and party decorations, like we talked about, to, gratitude worksheets, to teacher printables. There's so many things people make, like backgrounds for your phone. Really, I tell people the options are so endless. And so that's why it's such a lucrative idea, really.
Yeah. And what do you find with Etsy customers? Are they buying the digital files and using them digitally? Or do you find that they're actually like printing it and creating things from it? What's the mix between
Right.
those two types?
Most of the things I create are all things that are printed. That's kind of what I specialize in. I know I have a few students who want to make backgrounds for people's phones or backgrounds for computers, things like that. But I would say I guess it's a mix of different things that people use it for. People are so creative on there that they can use it for so many different things. I saw someone the other day, they were selling printables for tarot readings. So like, it's just that way you can read your own tarot cards and stuff. And so it's just such a endless opportunity for you to use like your skills that you already have as like a tarot card reader to share that with someone. So that's what I love about it is you can really take it for really anything that you want to do.
Yeah, and Etsy is such a good place for that too, because people are looking for those specific things, right? Like those
Totally.
super custom or tailored to them. So
Yeah.
if the printable can fulfill that need with them, I mean, Etsy is the perfect place to be selling that.
Yeah,
So one more
absolutely.
question about like printables. What's your best selling printable that you currently have on Etsy right now?
Oh gosh, what is my best selling printable right
Or
now?
one of your favorites?
Probably one of the top ones. I mean, it just changes with the seasons a lot of times, but one of my top ones is these Playdate cards that I made for my daughter when she first entered kindergarten. She would come home and be like, I want to play with so and so. And I was like, I don't know who so and so is, and I don't know how to get in touch with their mom or whatever. So I made these little Playdate cards. And so then she could give them out and they're editable. So, people can put in their name and their phone number. And it was actually really funny because I'm actually not on TikTok. I don't know if you are. I mean, I kind of am. I'm just not. I need to get better at it. And this girl reached out to me on Instagram and she's like, hey, and I noticed that the Playdate cards had been selling a lot. And I was like, this is so weird. What is this? This girl reached out to me and she's like, I'm on TikTok and I bought your Playdate cards and I made a video about it and it kind of went viral. So I want to like link to your, so I had to get on TikTok just for that. It was pretty funny.
Oh my
But yeah,
gosh.
so it was really nice to see that like I could use it for my own personal use and then also be able to sell it to other people and they enjoyed it. So that's probably the
Yeah.
best selling one.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And like that's such a unique story right there of truly having something like so specific and so unique and
Totally.
then there actually being a need for it and people printing it out and using it with their kids. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love it. That's
Well,
such a
and
fun
I always
example.
tell people like, when they lack inspiration for a printable, I'm always like, okay, look at your own life and really create for yourself. And that's not always the best way, but it's such a great place to start, because you have so many ideas and it's just sitting right in front of you. So
Yeah, 100%. I love it so much. Okay.
yeah.
And I know we're going to talk a little bit about like how gratitude has really helped you with your Etsy journey. But before we get there, I want to just dive a little bit more about your printables business because I think this is just awesome insight to hear like how you built it and what
Yeah.
you've seen. So when you have your printable business right now, do you only sell on Etsy or do you also have your own website currently? I know you said with the party favors, you did have your own website. What does your
Yeah.
overall business look like now?
Yeah, I still do sell on my website, but just because I'm teaching people how to sell on Etsy, I really try to focus a lot of my energy over there. But I also tell my students, we shouldn't have all our eggs in one basket, right? So I teach them how to sell on Etsy and then really hope that they will expand beyond that. So really that's, growing your email list, starting a website, really just taking it beyond just selling on Etsy because I always want them to really build a business around this so that they can grow and eventually quit their full-time job and do all of the things that they want to do. So
Yeah. And that's the
yeah,
best feeling too, as you start to lay those foundations and all those different pieces, like you said,
yeah,
website, Etsy, email, Instagram, as you start to build all of those, it's like the best feeling ever because you're truly starting to build a real business. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this. Like this works and I'm getting orders
totally.
and people are interested. So I love how you mentioned that because that's like the fun part, right? Is actually building it into fruition.
Totally. Well, and that's what I always tell people too. It's like Etsy or printables or whatever you start in is just like that jumping off point into like what's possible for you. And then once you start to make sales and you gain more confidence and you're like, this is really fun, you start to kind of picture what else can I do, and how else can I grow this maybe differently than anyone else has. So I always think that's exciting for people.
Yeah. And with printables too, I mean, there's no inventory that you need. It's a digital file that you create and that you sell and that's for a specific person that's super unique that people are on Etsy looking for unique stuff like
Totally.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a really great business model in terms of not having to stack up or spend a lot of
Totally.
money or have any inventory or anything like in the hidden cupboards of your house to try to
Right.
fulfill orders. So I love this whole printables idea. I think it's awesome. And it sounds like Etsy is like a perfect spot for it. And people are actually coming on to Etsy and purchasing these things and finding these really unique printables that they need for their own lives, right?
Totally. And people often ask, like, should I start on my website? Should I always like people to start on Etsy just because it's that built-in marketing platform, right? And it's like, there's so many people on it and it's just such a great place to start. So yeah. And I always tell people, the first time I ever sold a printable actually was I ended up putting one of my party decorations on as a printable and kind of forgot about it, didn't think about it. It was way overpriced. It was like $7, something like that. So I don't think it sold for a while. But basically, I was out shopping at like Marshall's or something, my favorite discount store. And I just remember specifically, I was like in the pillow aisle and like I got the cha-ching on Etsy and I like pulled it up thinking I was going to have to run home and like pull out my Cricut, get my glue gun ready. And it was literally that printable. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do anything now. It just relists and it can sell again. So I was like, I need to do more of this.
Yes, I love it. I mean, that's pure passive income. That's literally no work at all. It's just the order. Etsy automatically sends that digital download or whatever it is, and then easy peasy, right? No other work afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Okay, cool. So now that we know a little bit more about printables and how you got to where you're at, I would love to talk a little bit about how you really got to where you are in terms of like your mindset and gratitude and things like that. So walk me through a little bit more of your business journey, specifically around your mindset too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it all started, like I said, when, I was really struggling with postpartum depression and I actually was listening to XM radio and I was listening to the Jenny McCarthy show back in the day. And she had someone on that was talking about gratitude and just about writing in your gratitude journal every day and how important it is and all this stuff. And, I was just going through it. So I thought, you know what, why not? I'm going to just go ahead and do that. And man, within months, like my mindset had completely changed around being a mom and all of the struggles that I was having. And of course, since it was working for that, I was like, you know what, I should use this to make some money. So I started writing in my gratitude journal every day that I had 3 Etsy sales every day on Etsy, obviously. And I did start to notice a difference. I started to get more sales and I was like, oh my gosh, this works. And so I just became, some people like to call me the ultimate gratitude pusher because I push people into gratitude. And so it's just because it works, and once you find out like there's actual science behind it and all that, it's just mind blowing. So, and I just can't believe people aren't doing it.
Yeah, I love it. And that's something that I do with my clients too. It's kind of like future pacing, right? It's showing gratitude for what you want, but you don't have yet, but acting like you have it, right? And just really embodying that. And that's something that I love to share with my people too. What a practice that I have them do is to write 6 things that you're grateful for, 3 of them that like actually happened, right? Yep. And then 3 of them that haven't happened, but kind of mix them up in there so you don't know if it did or it didn't. And then truly just write it as if it happened and embrace it and feel it and like have that excitement and energy around it to really trick your brain into thinking that it's happening. So it sounds like that's exactly what you did too. And that,
our brains don't know what's real and what's not. So that if we can just mix it up, like you said, it's like, oh, you're grateful for your house. You're grateful for the bed that you slept in last night. Oh, you're grateful for that $20,000 you made yesterday or last month or whatever it is. So, it's so incredible. And like you said, just the science behind it is just so amazing how it works. So that's why I just encourage it so much.
So what would you say to someone who maybe doesn't have a gratitude practice? Because this is something, I mean, you obviously do it, right? And it's something that I do too. But what I find is sometimes when you talk about this, certain people just either struggle with believing it or struggle with making the time to do it, even though it only takes a few minutes. So what's your pitch as to why people should prioritize this? Or what do you say for someone in that same boat?
Yeah, everyone has all these gratitude journal excuses, right? That they don't have the time and all of that. I think I just tell people to give it a try. I mean, because that's the thing is you don't know until you try. And I think a lot of the excuses a lot of people have are, oh, well, I am grateful. I'm grateful. I walk around and I'm grateful. I don't have to sit down and take the time to do it. And what I tell them is that, you have all of these automated thoughts, right? All of our the process that we go through every day are all automated, 95% of our thinking. So if you think you can just, walk around and be grateful and not take the time to sit down and do it, you're actually really fooling yourself, because you just aren't integrating it. So if you sit down, you take the time to do it, you're going to break through those thoughts and be able to actually make some change. And, the thing I always tell people is like, what do you have to lose with gratitude, right? It's like, you can only gain, like you're not going to lose anything from trying it out and seeing how it works. So, and of course, like I said, I mean, it's like science backed. So maybe you're not going to manifest like the biggest thing that you ever wanted, but you're going to have better sleep. You're going to be in a better mood. You might have a better relationship with your, spouse or your partner, whatever it is. So all of those things can come out of it. So it's like, try to get over your excuses so you can just start,
Oh, my internet cut out for a little
Wait,
bit.
no,
So make sure
I noticed
we'll
that.
make sure to get that edited out. Yeah, I love every single piece of what you just said. And I think it's so important. It's similar to like meditating, right? Because a lot of people either say they don't have time to meditate, but isn't there that one quote that says the people who say they don't have time to meditate are the ones who actually need to meditate, right? Because
Right.
you're probably running from thing to thing to thing, have a billion things going on, but truly pausing and actually meditating and taking inventory of your thoughts. And then I think that ties perfectly into gratitude, because as you're taking inventory of your thoughts, you can start to see, are they going more down the negative route? Are they kind of spiraling? Or am I focusing on things that I am grateful for right here, right now, the simple things, the big things, the small things, and just changing your whole perspective on your day to day. And that's something that I find too. I mean, coming from someone myself, and I would love to know your experience too of how things were before you really got down this gratitude journey. Because for me, I was very, very, very much someone who kind of was like the victim mentality. And I was always taking things as like, oh, why does this happen to me? And everything hard happens to me. And I would always say those types of things. And then when I started to shift to gratitude, I'm like, okay, well, this is actually a great learning experience for me. I'm going to come out stronger on the other side. I'm learning a new skill. This is happening for me instead of happening to me. So tell me about your transition, like before and after you really started this gratitude practice. Did you see any other ripple effects just overall in your life from practicing
totally.
gratitude?
I mean, as I think back on my life, I think I was always into gratitude. I just didn't really have a name for it. I didn't have a practice of actually sitting down and doing it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like once you get into this whole, I mean, gratitude ties a lot into personal development, right? So once you're all in all of that, it's just like life gets so much more exciting and just generally more fulfillment, because like you said, you're able to spot the little silver linings in all of the crap that we go through. I actually have a blog that's like one of my most popular blogs, and it's about like I forget what it's called. It's like what to write in your gratitude journal when life is hard or something, or gratitude prompts when life is hard. And like a few years ago, I had like one of the most hard years of my life, and I kind of go through all the different things that I went through, and it's just like, the bad thing is that you can't tell someone else to be grateful. That's where the hard part falls in, right? If someone's having a bad time, you can't go up to them and just be like, well, you should just be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really watch yourself with that, but you can tell yourself that, and you can sit down and you can journal through it and you can get through it, and you can look back on that time and say like, wow, I was able to really move through that in like a nice, classy way, because I wasn't, punching a wall or doing something inappropriate or yelling at my kids or whatnot. So it might not like feel like the best thing in the moment, just to say, okay, what am I grateful for? And it's really a practice, kind of like you said, meditation, like pulling yourself back to being grateful, even though that like, because I know that a lot of times like spiritual bypassing like comes up with that kind of thing, right? But it's like, it's not so much ignoring what's going on, just remembering to be grateful in the moment. So
Mm-hmm. And do you remember from that blog post, what were some of the prompts for how to show gratitude when you are having like a hard month or a hard year, or anything, any guidance you would give someone? Because I do know just from some of the conversations that I've had with people who listen to the podcast that that's a thing, right? A lot of people are, for example, if they're small business owners and they're trying all the things and it's just not progressing. I mean, it can be hard to like be happy when you're working your butt off and not seeing results right away. So any specific prompts or any tips for people who may be stuck in that point where they're working really, really, really hard and just not there yet and just struggling to be happy about it?
Right. I mean, there's always something you can be grateful for. It's just hard, sometimes to find it. Right. But yeah, I think some of the gratitude prompts, if I can remember, I mean, just, how can I be thankful? Who's my biggest cheerleader, in business right now? What kind of who can I be grateful for as mentors that I have, whether in person or online? What's some skills that I've like learned about myself through this business? Like, because that's why I always tell people being an entrepreneur is just the biggest personal development that you can do, right? You realize all your weaknesses, and then you realize like, actually you're smarter than you thought you were, and all these different things, right? And so there's always, business is such a great way to like identify all those little things. So if you can just look at each part of your business, what did you make progress on just yesterday? What did you do last week that put you forward? So if you can always be looking at those small little wins, I think that's like the biggest thing, because when you're not manifesting the biggest things from it, you can definitely get down on yourself. So you got to focus on those small wins for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good way to actively change your mindset, is when you pick out those small things.
Totally.
Because if you're normally focusing, which I think there are statistics that say that the brain, because it's built for survival, it's always looking for the negative things, right? It's always looking for what to watch out for. It's always looking for what's going wrong, because I'm sure I'm not, saying this as eloquently as it actually is, but back in the day when we were like Stone Age people, we physically had to look for the negative things in order to survive, in order to live, in order to make sure that we didn't get eaten by a tiger or whatever was chasing us around back then, right? So if our brain is literally wired for survival to look at what's not working, then what you just said of really focusing on those small wins and what you did do that went well, and just starting to change your perspective on focusing on the good, the small things, the big things, the learning lessons. I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is when you start to just be grateful for every single thing around you. Like, one exercise I really like is write 100 things that you're grateful for, because after the first like 10 or 15 or 20 or 30, you start to kind of hit a wall, right? But then you get really, really basic. Like, I'm so grateful that I have the ability to like sleep in a warm, cozy bed. I'm so grateful that I'm able to have a cup of water, like clean water, every single morning and throughout the day. And you start to realize how there are so many actual things to be grateful for.
Totally.
Super small things of just day-to-day life. And then once you have that, it's like, I have no reason to be upset. I mean, obviously things happen and we can process those emotions as they come up. But at the end of the day, underneath it all, when you are just so grateful for the home, the water, the shelter, the bed, the family, the friends, the phone, the ability to like start a business out of nowhere nowadays, there's like no reason at all to have any of that negativity run your day and run your programming.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. And one of my favorite books is called Think and Grow Rich, not to be confused with Think and Grow Rich by Pam Grout. Such a good book. But she talks about how she's a writer and she gets to travel around, and her whole thing was like, you should write down 3 new things every day to be grateful for. And of course, she's a writer, so she does it very eloquently and uses all of these amazing like words to describe it. But it is fun to kind of think, okay, what's something that I haven't said yet? And like look around and say like, oh, warm snuggles like with my daughter in the morning, or getting to, just noticing the details is kind of fun as well. And to think of things that like you haven't thought of before.
I think that's a beautiful segue, because when I really think about gratitude, I think of being present, right? It's just truly just being present to what you have right now. Because when you think about the opposite of gratitude, it's like anticipating the future. Like, oh, I just wish I had X amount of sales, or I just wish I completed this, or I was good at this, or I achieved that. Or you're thinking about the past, which is, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish that worked out differently. I wish I had it easier. I wish I didn't mess up in that way. But when you're truly, truly, truly present, like in the actual moment, then all you can have is gratitude, because you're just observing what's around you and how beautiful it is. Like you said, waking up next to your, having your daughter in the morning, cuddling next to you. Like when you're so, so, so present to this moment right now, that's all you have room for is
Yeah.
just strictly gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I was just thinking about what you said about like the going back to the stone ages and how we were, in fear and things like that. And people don't realize that when we focus on, like you said, when we focus on the fear, we're really drawing more of that towards us, right? And so when we can focus on what we're grateful for, we tune our brains to that new frequency. And what people don't realize is that like you're training your brain to get ready to accept those new things,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's so important in business more than anything, I think, because we have these big goals and these big dreams, and our brain just is like, oh no, I can never do that. Like you think you can do what, And so the more that you can train your brain to get ready to receive those things, the quicker it's going to come. And that's why I just love it. And that's why I love how the law of attraction ties into gratitude journaling and all of that. It's so great.
Yeah, I think it's such a great practice. I mean, we truly have so many things at our disposal, and it's just acknowledging them and being open to it, and then being open to what the future holds too. There's also an interesting conversation that I had with some of my members too about gratitude, and I think you can take it to another level where it's like you are so grateful to have your business and to do what you do that you don't even care about the results, right? That you love it so much and you love the one or two people who try your products and leave you amazing reviews that if you don't blow up to multiple six figures, you would still do it because you have that gratitude for your actual business and the customers and the few that come back to you. And I think that's such a different perspective too, because a lot of people say like, oh yeah, I'll be grateful when I'm making X amount of dollars, or I'll be happy when I'm making X amount of dollars. But being a business owner, you have to love what you do so much to the point that like that doesn't matter. I mean, obviously we have an end goal,
Right.
but that you're going to show up here and try your best every single day because of the couple people who you will impact.
Yeah.
And if you show up with that energy every day, grateful for the couple sales, the one or two, then that's just going to grow and compound. And if you keep showing up, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you keep focusing on gratitude, like you've been saying, it's just going to keep expanding.
Yeah,
and then before you know it,
and that's kind
you
of
reach
what
your
I talk
goals,
about.
but it's not from this place of, neediness or wanting it or really just like waiting and getting antsy for it. It's just from the place of it's going to happen. I'm just going to keep showing up because I love what I do. And no matter what, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be here for my business and for my customers, and just letting that really come full circle too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I love talking to people specifically around the printables, is that you have to be doing something that you're passionate about, using your creative skills, And so that's why it's the fun in doing the process, and why I love when people start in their own life and create things for them, because then they're actually getting something out of it. So yeah, exactly. It's just, living in the moment, being passionate about what you're doing in the moment, because otherwise you are going to get burnt out. If you're doing it for some other reason, then it's just, you're not going to put in the work that it takes,
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you're doing it for like a monetary goal, if that's the only reason, right? I tell people all the time, if the only reason you are running your business is to make money, like you're not going to last, right? Because there's going to be hard times where you're not making money. And if you're only in it for the money and that's all you care about, well, good luck overcoming those low periods, because you're going to be the first person to call it quits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're here with the actual passion behind it of either you love the creativity, you love what customers say, you love showing up every day, learning new skills, you love being a business owner, you love challenging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's when all these roadblocks and challenges and hurdles get thrown your way, and it's like, bring it on, right? I'm ready for this. This is what I'm here for, to actually learn how to evolve and grow and to keep progressing with this business. So I think this has been just such a good conversation, because gratitude is something that can be really hard, right? Especially during those hard times, but it's just changing your perspective, and it's just realizing what you have in front of you, and knowing that it's going to continue to grow if you choose to focus on those positive things, right?
That's right.
So I would love to ask you, before we dive into a little bit more about like the services you offer with your printables, if there's any other last minute tip on gratitude that you want to share. I know you've shared so many amazing pieces of information here on how people can get started and what to focus on, but any final words that you want to share just about being a business owner and having gratitude?
Yeah, I would just say probably my ultimate favorite quote is right behind me on the wall. It says, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And I feel like that is one of the number one reasons to get into gratitude, because it's going to help you get out of, your fears. You're going to start to see things, that are aligning with what your goals are and what you're looking for. And things are going to come through that you never, or that were trying to come through before, but it just couldn't. Right. And so, I just would encourage people to just get over those fears and start. Right. And hopefully you can do that through gratitude that can help you through it. So.
Oh my gosh, beautiful. I love it. So beautifully said. Well, let us know a little bit more about where you hang out on Instagram, and tell us a little bit more about your Printables course. And I know you have a freebie that is a quiz. So tell us about all the things that you have going
on. Okay. So you can come find me over at a touch of LA_party decorations, a really long one. And my course, I teach women how to make printables using professional design programs. So I teach you all about Adobe programs. And no, I don't use Canva. That's a whole other conversation. So yeah, we do that over there. And then we also combine all the spiritual principles that we were talking about today, which is so fun because like we said, you have to integrate that into a business. So yeah, you can come and I have a free masterclass that I do to help you get over your fears to start a printables business. And you can check that out at atouchofla.com/learn. And if you are interested in printables, but you're just like, I don't know, what I would even sell, you can go to touchofla.com/quiz and take the quiz to see what printables are right for your personality. So.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So many amazing resources. And I'll make sure to link all of those in the show notes so people can easily find them if they're interested. And with that, Lindsay, I just want to say thank you so much. This was such an awesome conversation, learning about your Etsy businesses and learning about how gratitude has really supported you to get you to where you are now. So thank you so much for taking the time and for being a guest on the Product Biz Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.